What's up, everybody? Welcome to the very last day of our mock draft. That means the draft is coming up in just a few short ones. Joining me from Cleveland, as you can see, is Chris Fedor. We're saving the best for last. So no pressure, but you're the last one of this mock draft. And so we need you to finish with a bang.
I'll do my best, Kelcey. You know that.
Okay, so for people who maybe didn't watch the Cavs this year, they went off to a hot start after drafting third last year. Is Evan Mobley just a rookie? Oh my God, he had an amazing season. However, injuries hurt this team a whole lot. A bunch of their guys had like season-ending injuries, and the end of the season was not pretty for this Cavs team. They missed the playoffs, but they have three guys who are kind of the cornerstones now of this team, and they're all young. They've got Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, and Jarrett Allen. We got to see a couple of them at the All-Star weekend. Jarrett Allen and actually all three of them, they just look like they actually like each other, which I love to see. Anyway, what does this team need? Like, let's say everyone comes back healthy, Chris.
Yeah.
There's still going to be holes. They weren't championship contenders this year. They had a great beginning of the year.
Yeah.
Everyone comes back healthy. What needs to be added to this squad?
Yeah, so that's the thing, Kelcey. Like, obviously, they need health. They've got to find a way to keep this group together. The five-man lineup that they really wanted to see after trading for Caris LeVert got 24 total minutes. It was Darius Garland, Caris LeVert, Lauri Markkanen, Evan Mobley, and Jarrett Allen. 24 total minutes in the final game of the season, which was the second playing game against the Hawks. So, yeah, they need to be healthy so that they can find out just how good they can become. But you pinpointed it. They're not Milwaukee, right? They're not Boston. They're not Miami. They're not Philadelphia. They're in a different tier of the Eastern Conference. They're that up-and-coming team that's trying to push out of the play-in tournament and get one of the actual 6 spots in the Eastern Conference to be a playoff team. If they're going to do that, Kelcey, they've got to find a two-way wing, somebody who can shoot from the outside, defend his own position. It is lacking on this roster. They used Lauri Markkanen as a small forward this year by default. They had to find a way to get him out on the court, and they didn't really have anybody else that could fill that particular void. The other thing is they got to find some help for Darius Garland in terms of playmaking. At the end of the season, everything was on Darius. He was responsible for creating his own offense and creating for everybody else. And by the end of the season, once they got in the play-in tournament against Brooklyn and Atlanta, he was gassed, Kelcey. Physically and mentally, he was completely drained. Now, a big part of that is Rubio went down and Colin Sexton went down, but they need more playmakers so that not everything falls on the shoulders of Darius.
Okay, I'm listening to the holes that you want filled, and 2 names come to mind with those 2 different kind of things that you need. So tell me how attractive these 2 people are in terms of those 2 holes. Number 1, to me, when you're talking about scoring, creating shots, passing the ball, the first one that comes to me is Jaden Hardy. And I only say that because he's a 3-level scorer who can kind of create his own shots. But what might be even more attractive, and I don't know who you've chosen yet. Some of these videos I don't know yet, so I'm just throwing these out, is Tari Eason. He's a perimeter defender. You just said you needed that, and he can score. He can cut off the ball.
Yep.
Another guy who just put up numbers but doesn't need the ball in his hands. Don't tell me who you got yet, but those 2 guys in those roles that you just said are those people that the Cavs can be like, oh my gosh, like that would be something we need on the roster.
I think Eason for sure is somebody that they're looking at. It's somebody who has worked out with them. I think he's in consideration for the number 14 pick. Hardy, I get the sense that no, because they have somebody like Caris LeVert who can do some of those same things. And if Colin Sexton is brought back as a restricted free agent, he can do some of those things that Hardy does as well.
And he probably does better now at this point in his career.
Yeah. So I think if they're going to go that direction that you were talking about, 3-level scorer, I think they're going to want somebody who's more of an outside shooter, like Malachi Branham, for example, but he's obviously off the board in this mock draft. So those kinds of players, I think, make a lot of sense for the Cavs in the direction that they want to go in.
Anyone who's off the draft right now that like pretend you're not part of my draft and we're just talking one-on-one, are there any names that you're like, that guy would be perfect at number 14?
I don't know that there is a perfect player, honestly, because there isn't really that natural small forward in this year's class that's a 2-way wing. You know, a Jimmy Butler type, a Jason Tatum type, a Jaylen Brown type, Chris Middleton, the kinds of players that the Cavs don't currently have on the roster. So I don't think there is that perfect player. The one that probably jumps to mind that's closest to that is AJ Griffin of Duke. But I've heard some intel that's not so great about him, that maybe the Cavs wouldn't want to go that direction. But in terms of just like positional fit and style, he's the kind of player that would make a lot of sense for them. Ousmane Dieng is another one. He's a guard in a wing's body. I think he's probably going to be listed at 6'10". He played for New Zealand, the Breakers this past year as a French swingman. He kind of fits the profile of the kinds of players that the Cavs really like as well.
I want to hear more about AJ, but we'll do that when we're recording, I guess. Let's put you on the clock because now I'm curious. We're throwing out a whole lot of names. You are on the clock to finish our mock draft. Yeah. The last lottery pick we got, no pressure. Chris Fedor for the Cavs is drafting.
Kelcey, I'm going to take Jeremy Sochan from Baylor. And he goes against a lot of the stuff that I was talking about in terms of they need more shooting, they need more scoring to take some of the pressure off Darius Garland. But this to me is just an upside pick. This to me is just a talent grab. And I was stunned that Sochan was still on the board at number 14 in this mock draft. So I think if that's the case come draft night, the Cavs would be really, really excited about that. And they would just kind of build the team a different kind of way, right? Like this past year, they built it around 3 7-footers because that's the talent that they had on the roster. So if you have somebody like Sochan, who looks to be the prototypical modern day wing defender, then you just get that guy in your lineup. And then your front court is him, Evan Mobley, and Jared Allen. Like that makes the Cavs really, really difficult to score against. And maybe they're not going to have the offense that you want to have in today's NBA. But if you can lock up the opponent the way that they probably could with that kind of front court, I think that's something they would explore. And I think it's a good fit.
Defense wins championships. I'm actually really happy that you chose Sochan because if you've been watching this at home, if you're watching this, almost every single person from like maybe 6 has said, oh, I really like his game. Oh, he does this good. Oh, he does this good. But no one chooses him.
Right.
And finally,
I'll be the one.
Yeah. He got on the board.
I'll be the one to take him.
Personally, I don't think he's going to drop as far down as he's dropped here because I actually really, really like his game. But if he does, like you said, that would be a lethal lineup. Like you're right. They may not be able to score like they would with an Eason, but like if you don't let your opponent score.
Right. I mean, if you think about some of the guys that the Cavs are going to go up against in the Eastern Conference, like they really don't have anybody to guard those kinds of players. Isaac Okoro is known as their best on-ball perimeter defender, but he is just a complete offensive liability. And you saw that in the playing game against Brooklyn and against Atlanta. There were teams that just didn't cover Isaac whatsoever. So Sochan can find a way to score, just be involved offensively enough with that kind of defense matched up against, Tatum, Durant, Jimmy Butler, those kinds of players, that does a lot for the Cavs from a defensive standpoint.
All right. I like it. I think either way, it's a lottery pick for a team that if they were healthy, they could have had a chance to make, not even play in, like had a chance to make playoffs. They had a hot start. So I think adding a lottery talent, no matter who it ends up being, is going to be a huge step forward, especially once you get the guys back who were out this season. So should be a good one.
Yeah. The other thing, Kelcey?
What?
They weren't supposed to have this first round pick. They traded a lottery protected first round pick to Indiana for Caris LeVert, thinking that Caris was going to help push them into the playoffs, and they were fine with losing this first round pick. And then they collapsed. They missed the playoffs altogether. So they got to keep this pick. So it's essentially playing with house money.
It's because you have Caris and now you have the pick. I didn't realize that.
That's exactly right. Yep.
So you're saying they lost on purpose? I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm not putting. I'm kidding. No, it is. That's literally the best moving forward. It's the best of both scenarios. So take it.
Right.
Add a bunch of talent. And Caris is proven. Like he balled out in the bubble. Like I think it's gonna be good. And all right. I really was kidding, everyone. They were trying to win. They just had a lot of Chris, thank you so much. I appreciate you having a good finale to our mock draft.
You got it, Kelcey. Anytime.